Hello there everyone, and welcome back to this. Let's see if and the cannons are starting to fire. Hopefully you can still hear me though. Don't think they're too loud, maybe they are. So anyways, welcome to this battle, or this siege, in my battle series. The Indian Mutiny of 1857. We got some sepoys here inside Delhi. So we've marched on to probably one of the most important battles here, because of the impact it had. Here in the forest, you can see a bit of the light infantry, the Gurkhas, are now starting to fire on the wall. Now I should mention, as I think I've mentioned for all of these battle series, that we tried to use the troops that were in the battle, but we are not actually trying to recreate the battle how it went. So it can go either way, as has happened in my battle series for the North and South mod, where sometimes I lose where I should have won, or the other way around. I won where I should have lost. Now for the setups, there's usually a bit bias towards the person who won historically, but mostly it's set up pretty fair in between the two players. So hopefully you've seen the other videos in this series about the Indian Mutiny, so I don't have to repeat a lot of the basic stuff, and so we can go into more detailed accounts of the siege. As I recall, this battle took quite a while when we played it. But let's talk a little bit about the siege. So, as I've said in the other ones, the Indian mutineers were very disorganized. And so the few beacons to the sort of rally cries they could have was Delhi, because it was the former city of the Mughal Empire. And as I think I've stated before, they set up the old Mughal Empire, the Emperor Bashdur Shah, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, although he wasn't too happy about that, and they also used Delhi as a sort of rallying area. A lot of this, the rebellion was a lot decentralized, and it never really got centralized except for sort of at Delhi, and it sort of became a point where everyone moved to. I'm not entirely sure, the music might be too much, so I'm just gonna go ahead and lower that. I think I set it pretty low though. Okay, so I can either go with too loud or way too low, but I think it's easier, I think it's better if you can hear me, and will enjoy the sound of gunfire instead of the music. And so they focus the headquarter. Delhi became sort of the headquarter of the revolt. Still, they're very decentralized. A lot of the rebels, the mutineers, did not respect the emperor that much. They were quite disrespectful, and they were also, in some part with good reason, because he wasn't that keen on becoming emperor again, or taking up the banner of revolt, as it were. So he wasn't too keen on that. And one of the things to I think symbolize this, or symbolize the sort of the nature in between the mutineers and the Mughal Empire was that the Mughal Emperor, I should say. Here goes the wall. So we have the wall here collapsed. A lot of the defending force fell down and got crushed in the rubble. Few survived standing down here, but there is now a breach in the wall, and soon there will be a second breach in the wall. Maybe we should talk a bit about the troops. It's a long battle, so I can go on about the historical stuff later on. So we got the Punjab, or the Loyal Indian Infantry. They're called the Punjabi here, but they're basically sepoys, loyal sepoys that have that are still loyal to the East India Company. And so they have marched up first, and then we have the British infantry coming up and marching up behind. And so my plan was just to suppress the wall with superior firepower. And so we are inflicting quite a bit of damage up here on the walls, although they are in a defensive position. Which means still quite a bit of our gunfire is being soaked up by the wall. And also we can see the cannons here around. I have 3 cannon positions. We've got 2 12-pounders, and then we've got 1 9-pounder horse artillery. And we can see here I'm sending forward 2 units of infantry to take advantage of the fact that we have breached the wall here on the left side. And now we have the second breach here, and we can see quite a bit of people has fallen down there. Although the enemy has retreated from the wall and taken up position here in the armory. But back to some of the historical stuff. Where was I? Yes, I was the relationship in between the mutineers and the Mughal Emperor. And so what they did to sort of make sure that he was on their side was that they took a number of European I think there were some British soldiers and officers as well, but also a few captured European civilians, and they took quite a few of them. They marched them into the palace area, and they executed him, sort of to incriminate him, so that he would not try to seek some sort of separate deal with the British to save his own skin. And also they had at the sort of first what should you call it, the first sort of session of when he was back in power, they were very disrespectful at that ceremonial meeting. So we can see the British troops are now storming in. Historically, they stormed in on a lot of different from a lot of different areas and angles. But for this in this playthrough, you are completely allowed to go any way you want. We can see here some cannon shots that missed the wall going through, and then they have destroyed this house over here inside the town. Now the town suffered quite a lot of damage throughout the siege. I believe, yes, I remember. You can hear them they were screaming to form square, and I was trying to form square because we were in sort of a difficult position there, but they decided instead that they would move over here and then move through here to take on these disloyal mutineers. And so the siege of Delhi started in June and ended in September. And it was very touch and go for a very long time for the British. They were very hard onset on the ridge where they had taken up position. But they managed to hold out until the reinforcements arrived, which came in the form of a siege train. And then I'm not meaning a actual train. I'm meaning a large force with lots of carriages with gunpowder and ammunition that is needed, and also quite a lot of cannons. They brought up 15 24-pounders, 20 18-pounders, and then about 25 mortars, heavy mortars and howitzers. Now we couldn't symbolize this in game because of the restrictions of the game, so we weren't able to fully show that, which would have been kind of ridiculous with that kind of firepower in Napoleon. I mean in Empire. We're playing Empire. Forgot that. And so you can see here we've taken up quite a good position now. And a lot of the British, when the British were able to breach, they did pretty well for most of the attack position. The British formed, as I believe, 5 columns of attack, one of which was in reserve. So there were 4 attacking columns. Now most of these were successful, except for one of them that was sent back in disarray, and actually threatened the rear camp of the British. Although because of confusion within the Indian lines and the way in which they were very ill organized, sort of saved the British. And the British then organized some, I believe it was cavalry together with mounted artillery, horse-drawn artillery, I should say. That quickly moved into position to cover them. And there we go, the general has died. I was actually quite surprised when we were playing this that the general died there, because my adversary was confused as well, because he hadn't realized that he had actually sent his general in to die there. I think we're about to see some canister down here, so let's go in and focus on that. We're gonna see about some canister that's gonna go down here. Boom! I take out some loyal sepoys, but we take out quite a lot of these insurgent civilians. Now this insurgent civilians is supposed to represent sort of the disorganized way in which a lot of the mutineers was, or disorganized way they were organized in is a rather weird way of saying it, but I think you understand what I mean. And there were also quite a lot of Muslim soldiers that took part in the battle. So right here we can see the Gurkhas doing their charge, and they're splitting up the entire unit and going head on in melee here. They draw their swords and complete mayhem erupts at the same time as both units are getting fired upon by troops around there. So we got quite a bit of sepoys that lined up here, firing down here towards our line. Same time, fires coming from up here down on the civilian force. Also, we have our unit here, which are now firing towards the Mughal sentinels. A sort of a Muslim bodyguard of the emperor. Now the troops are redrawing and leaving open for canister to be fired downrange towards the sepoys. Now the attack on was quite successful, but at the same time it wasn't, because the mutineers have dug in pretty well, and a lot of the it's hard to say that word, muhajid, sort of Muslim religious warriors, mujahideen, that's what they're called. Here we see some canister going down. They had dug in pretty well, and the Indians themselves, now in this, we thought it was too much to give the Indians canister a shot because of just the amount of troops. So instead the Indian got a lot more infantry instead to but in reality they had set up lines of canister, and the British had a very hard time getting through that. And so after the initial success of actually getting through the breaches, they were met with a lot of heavy resistance, and they were forced to fall back and regroup. And what happened then is a bit amusing actually, because the area which the British had taken was I can't remember if it was, at least there was a lot of liquor stored there, a lot of booze, alcohol was stored there, and in the sort of because at this time the British had lost about 1,000 casualties, if I remember correctly. 1,170 it says here in my notes at that point in the siege, so they were a bit disheartened. And then they had all these alcohol lying around. So actually what happened was the British soldiers went on a binge drinking mission, and for 2 days they were completely drunk out of their minds, which of course leave them at a very vulnerable position towards the Indians, although at this point the Indians themselves were also very disheartened because they had trouble getting food into the city. They had trouble with ammunition. A lot of the fact that they had trouble with ammunition was that not only the supply, but early when they captured it, there were 9 artillery officers that held off in the sort of powder storage in Delhi, the sort of main powder store there, and they held off there. 9 British officers held off there against the mobs trying to capture this, though, because they need the ammunition and stuff. And they were able, these 9 officers were able to hold off. Let's look here. I think we can see some. It's always nice to see nice canister ripping holes through lines. So I think we're gonna focus on here. So we had these 9 officers that held down against a large number of just mobs, and also a few mutineers trying to capture this area. And these 9 artillery officers held out for 5 hours until they ran out of ammo. And what they did then was they detonated the store, which blew up in this amazing cascade of smoke and fire. Only 3 of them escaped, but all 3 of those that escaped gained the Victoria Cross. And there were quite a few others in this siege that gained the Victoria Cross. But anyways, after a while the the British officers realized that the looting and having the soldiers being in disarray all over town, drunk, wasn't very good. So the general order was given to destroy all the alcohol, to pour it out. I think we're gonna see we're gonna see some troops there, some British troops. I lost these guys. They have lost all their ammo, so I'm forced to charge with them. And so we have this combined force of loyal sepoys, Gurkhas, and my elite unit gonna charge in here against the Mughal sentinels, the loyal bodyguard troop. At the same time here we've got another cannon coming in to rain grape shot, and I think we're gonna see some nice grape shots going down this way. So I think we're gonna focus around here. And so the all the alcohol was destroyed, and they reorganized, and they were able to take the town. And so on the 14th of September they were able to actually take the town. One point in this, I haven't really mentioned that many of the players, but the one in overall command was Archdale Wilson, and he was not that much. He wasn't that. Didn't really want to attack to begin with, but he was convinced by the officer. Oh, now we're missing the canister. Boom! Slash! There's a bit of an FPS drop here, but I think it's fine. It's probably just because a lot of troops are moving in and out of buildings right now. And so John Nicholson, which was in charge of the siege train, he and the other officers convinced Wilson to start the attack. And so partly through here, when they get into this, when the British sort of are forced back and they retreat to defensive positions within the town, which they've already taken, Wilson is sort of concerned, and he's thinking about redrawing his troops. And at this point, John Nicholson, which has led 3 charges up one of these alleys that were shot with canister and gunfire. And so he has charged there, and for the 3rd time he charged through there, he got mortally wounded. And so he's lying there mortally wounded, and he calls Wilson to him, and he basically says, if you retreat now, I'm gonna shoot you. So he physically threatened him to shoot him, and together with other officers they convince Wilson to continue the attack. So at this point there's not a lot of Indians left here. We have 2 units of hill dwellers, or the insurgent civilians. Or maybe those two are 2 different types of units actually. So we got 2 units of hill dwellers here, and we got 1 unit of sepoys. In this building we have some remains of that sentinel unit that was retreating out of here. And over here, I think we have 1 or 2 sepoy units. So that's what's remaining of the enemy force. On the British side, we still have a few of these guys. The elite infantry, the Gurkhas, and the loyal sepoys. We got 1 unit of infantry moving in here to start volley firing towards the sepoys. they're also being shot from the house and by the hill dwellers. We can see some cannon shots going down there towards the hill dwellers. And so at this point what happens is a bit of boom. What it is Empire being a bit weird. So the Indians are still firing at this house and the troops in there, and so they're not engaging the line here, which means they're gonna take a lot of casualties. And you can see that there's only a few of them firing, and they're firing at this house. And I think there might be actually, I think we saw a guy through the window there. I think this guy is the one they're firing at. And so they're taking massive casualties. But I think now this is the point where we reorganize them to actually return fire. But in Empire style, the wait to every man has reloaded. And so it's gonna take a while. And instead it decides to charge. But I believe that just the devastation of those close-up volleys is gonna force the sepoys to retreat. Only 85 men make it this close. And they just about get into melee here. But they're heavily outnumbered. We saw one there just fell through. Cannon shots going. And so the sepoys are down to, or the mutineers are down to 50 men. And I believe, oh, he managed to stab one of the English guys there. He's going in for combat there. He strikes him and he goes down. So this guy has now killed 2 British. So it's a bit of a... Oh! And there he gets stabbed. Straight through. They're still standing though. There's only 17 of them. But they still stand. Now the troops have moved to gain control of this gatehouse over here. We actually have, this was kind of funny, I saw this in the actual battle. There's a single guy here from the hill dweller unit. Out of 160 men, he's the only one alive, and he's standing here scratching his ass. And so we're putting down effective flank fire here on the hill dwellers. And we're also pushing up around here. This unit has taken an awful long time to get out. And also we see the general coming in here. Are those? Ah, we got another small unit. 7 men. Also remnants. Not sure. Oh, there's the rest of them. Stuck up there on the wall. There's a few of those units lurking about here and there. And at the same time we're doing, here we go, a combined charge of all the troops on this side are now gonna make sure that the sentinels in there, the Mughal bodyguard, gets taken out. At the same time the hill dwellers engage with this unit of infantry, and what I'm going to do is they're gonna get stuck in here and they're gonna kill a lot of them. But there's a lot of hill dwellers and these troops are tired, so I'm gonna move them pretty soon, have them run over there, and as they do that I will concentrate canister shot on this flank to make sure to even the number of troops engaged in this melee affair. But it's probably gonna take a while before this happens. I'm waiting for it. There we go. The troops are now moving. And as they do that, these troops charge directly towards the canister. And quite a few of them get cut down. It's not a brilliant canister shot, but it's pretty good. And fearing that I might lose my cannons, I send in my general. So he comes in and he charges in and he catches all of them before they are able to get to the cannons. And the hill dwellers can't really stand against English cavalry. Now the rest of them are retreating as the British just ride them down and continue on. And so, fearing getting fired upon by the troops standing up, forming up here, I retreat my general. And I think we're gonna go for another canister, possibly. Oh no. Here's an interesting thing that's happening. Okay, so they're standing. Look at how close they're standing. But this is one of those points where we miss what's going on. And so I'm not aware of the fact that my guys are standing like this. And at the same time my enemy isn't aware of the fact that these guys are standing like that. I've captured this house, although none of the troops here have any shots left. So we're gonna move out of this house pretty soon. But we have captured it. And the sepoys are in there. So I realized that what was happening here. So I told the men to attack. And they cut them down. Both of them. And now they are ready in artillery towards the house over there. We have a unit of hill dwellers charging through. And a unit of sepoys across. And the hill dwellers charged through. At this point I actually thought they killed the flag guy, but he actually just put his flag down for some reason. And you can see that they're firing. First line is melee fighting. There the flag guy cut one down. This guy is actually gonna stand here and fight for a mighty long time until the troops behind here decide that we've had enough. And they start shooting at him. Point blank. Miss. See if second rank has any better luck. And there they go. Unsportsmanship-like. But that's how it is. And so I'm bombarding this house. The last refuge of the mutineers. With round shot. To force them out since the house is about to break. At the same time I think this unit has finally made it out of the... Oh, it is this unit that's finally made it out of the house. Possibly the only unit I have that has any sort of musket shot left. And now they're moving up to start firing on these sepoys. They're receiving a bit of fire from the house, but there's not a lot. As you can see, most of them are facing the wrong way. And as we start here, my troops actually fire on the wrong unit. So the first volley off goes on towards the house. Which I realize incorrect to fire upon these troops. And as they run away, we cut down quite a few of them. And I believe at this point that these guys break and I win the battle, or if we're about to go into battle with them. No, we won there. So here you can see the deployment. The enemy outnumbered me about 2 to 1. I lost 1,000 men. That's roughly exactly what no, it's not, but it's almost. Although that wasn't the final verdict, but the rough estimation here, given with the scale and so on, is pretty good. can actually see here the friendly fires. So I kill. Well, that might be from falling down walls, but there's a possibility of friendly fire there for the mutineers of about 400 men. And then for me, there's about a... Since no wall was crushed on me and no house crushed on me, I killed about 200 of my own. And to see who scored the most kills, you can see a lot of the British infantry here scored quite a few kills. The highest one with 460, only losing 56 men. But in the bottom spectra we have the general, although I didn't lose that and any men. We have the cannons. We have one of the loyal India units. It probably suffered quite a bit, just because it went into melee and not so much. And a lot of the fact that it went in first, and so it got fired upon from the wall. But I think this is the unit, or maybe it was this one that stayed to the very end. Or maybe this one. No, I only had 3. The Gurkhas didn't do that well. But I think that's because their accuracy is... and the melee. Anyways, there we have it. The siege of Delhi. So I'm not sure if we're gonna do any more out of this battle series, but feel free to suggest any other battle series. I'm thinking about scrapping the Rome 2 campaign with McCabe, because I don't think we're ever gonna be able to finish that. So I'm gonna scrap that, unfortunately. I would have liked to finish that. And what we're gonna do instead is we're gonna focus on more easier thing that doesn't need the sort of continuation, so more of a battle series with McCabe. And so we're gonna do try to do the Anthem for the new North and South Napoleon mod. We're gonna do that one since they've split that one up in 3 easy to manage parts that we're gonna try to play. But yeah, so yeah, I hope you enjoy this, and I hope you leave a like and subscribe and all that, and suggest any sort of battle series you might want to see, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye!